Well, hello. I go by the nickname Fitzy. I'm going to give this YouTube a try. I've never done any of this sort of thing before. But I'm a 50-year-old male living in Australia. Grew up here, born here. And I've done a lot of things in my life. A lot of different industries. Experienced different things. Gone through depression, anxiety. I've had a lot of attempts on my own life over the years since the age of 16, 15 might have been, just before I turned 16, I think my first attempts were. But basically, this channel, I want to try and bring some sort of positivity. I've been pretty ill the last few years, and I thought it was my body attacking me because I always worked hard, I pushed my limits, and I didn't take care of myself. I've since learnt in the last few months that that wasn't the case. Stress was what was killing me. A friend of mine brought it to my attention the other day that when our body's under stress, like we've all heard before, stress can make you sick, stress can make you unwell. What I was never aware of is in our glands, like when we're super excited or in a scary situation or something like that, we get that fight or flight response and we produce adrenaline. Well, stress also produces a chemical within our body, and it's called cortisol. When this friend suggested it to me, because I was trying to work out with recent changes in my life, which I'll get into, why all of a sudden, after years of being very, very sick, and I'll get into that shortly too, why all of a sudden my body was changing and it was repairing itself. So I'll give you a brief rundown. In 2014, I had to stop driving trucks. I'd injured my back when I was 19, but in 2014, my back wasn't coping. And prior to injuring my back the first time in 1994, I weighed around 76 to 78 kilos. I was quite fit, not muscly fit, just fit. Played a lot of sport, was pretty active, and was a workaholic. When I injured my back, I tore the lower lumbar muscles on my spine and I pinched a nerve, and I had difficulty walking for 3 months. Basically, you could nearly say I didn't walk for 3 months. But I had a metabolism prior to that injury, and I continued to eat the same amount of food. And I went from that 76 to 78 kilo range to 135 kilos in 3 months. I'm now 50. I turned 50 November 2024. Come to 2014, I was still around that 130 to 135 kilo range. And my back had had enough again. And I was told to get out of driving trucks and find a new career. So I studied and got my diploma in real estate, so that I could have an agency license if I so wished, or just a sales license. And I also did extra study to get my auctioneer's license as well. 2014, I had a hernia, and that was operated on straight away because I was in a lot of pain, and a repair was done. In 2015, that repair failed. I ended up with another hernia, and again in a lot of pain, was admitted for surgery, and that was fixed again, apparently. Well, we get to 2016, and I'd started my career in real estate, and out pounding the pavement, as we call it here in Australia, which is where you go door to door and you're trying to find the homeowners that might be considering selling, looking to sell, and so forth. And one night I got home from work and I'd done a fair few kilometres of walking that day, and I was relaxing and about to go to bed, and I stood up, and where the couch was in my lounge room was right beside the door to the front balcony, little small balcony, and I fell out the door. I couldn't stand on my feet. I couldn't put any weight on my feet, and I thought it might have just been sore from working, from all that walking. And I went to the hospital, and they told me I had a hairline fracture in my feet, in both feet, and plastered them both. So that led to starting a whole heap of an array of incidents that come up, basically. So it turned out that I didn't have the hairline fractures, but because of my weight, because of the amount of walking I was doing, my feet said, we can't hold you up, we can't do this, we can't support you. So that ended my real estate career short term, for a few months, and then I managed to get back into it. Now, as I said earlier, I suffer from depression and anxiety. I've had that since I was a teenager. I am currently writing a book. I have published one in 2019 as a tester. You can look that up at any bookstore, and you can get online or paperback. It's called The Dark Side by Jason Fitzgerald. I'm now writing a second one of that because of a lot of things that have happened since I wrote that book. And one of those things that I found out is I now suffer from CPTSD on top of all that. So anyway, back to the medical. I was gaining weight. I tried shakes that are supposed to help you lose weight. I tried different diets, and I've tried different diets over 20 odd years, and sometimes get a little bit of success and then it comes back and nothing was able to be maintained. Then I started getting discoloration in my lower legs, purpley black from the knees to the ankles and sometimes onto the foot. And it turned out that I had a condition called venous insufficiency, which is where the blood vessels in your veins aren't able to pump the blood back up, and that puts pressure on the heart to be able to try and do that. The swelling led to another condition called lymphedema. Now, lymphedema is where the lymph nodes that are supposed to remove the rubbish out of your system can't do it. They failed. And so you get a lot of lumps in your legs. It's quite an ugly look, actually, if you look it up online. It's not pretty. And throughout that, I'd had some nerve testing done on my legs as well, because I was losing sensation. And it turned out that my nerves in my legs were dying. My skin was thickening. It got to the thickness of a cowhide. And I was still had my own small business doing lawn maintenance. I couldn't wear shoes because of the swelling in my feet and lower legs. So I wore, in Australia, what we call thongs. Other countries call them flip-flops. And basically, one day while whippersnipping a client's yard, the whipper cord went right across my left toe. And what should have cut my foot right open and possibly cut my toe off, left me with a little scratch like when you just lightly glide along something. And that proved to me how thick my skin was. I started losing the strength of standing, walking, and the pain that I had in my legs. Some people don't experience any pain from these conditions combined. I experienced pain sensations, and to this day I still do, but not as bad, and I'll explain why a bit later. But the way I used to describe it to doctors on how severe the pain was, it was like walking on broken glass on an open fire pit while gremlins were trying to claw out from the inside of your leg. That drove me insane. I was put on nerve blocking medication called Lyrica, and then that was helping to a point. But then down the track, I found out that that was causing me to gain weight. So I refused to take it anymore. But in that time, not only had I got a hernia in 2016, my legs were falling apart. The overload on my heart was bad. My lungs were struggling to breathe. I am a smoker, but, it wasn't the smoking that was doing the breathing difficulties. Yes, it was probably coexisting to some of the problem, but not completely the problem. So as time went on, I ended up moving states in Australia because I lived in Queensland, which is a very hot climate, and I couldn't handle the heat anymore. My body was not coping with it. So I moved right down the bottom of Australia to a little place called Tasmania, where the climate is a lot better and it's a lot cooler. I also found some really great doctors and specialists down here, and they started working on me. But in 2021, my body was retaining fluid, and we'd only been here about 3 months, and I weighed in at 205 kilos. 20 kilo to 25 kilo of that was pure fluid excess retained in my body. It nearly killed me. I couldn't breathe. I ended up in hospital a couple of days before Christmas. Early the next year, I had a test done on my heart and found that my right side of my heart wasn't functioning correctly because of the pressure of getting the blood out of my legs, the excess fluid. My lungs couldn't keep up, so I was having difficulty breathing, and the list went on. I then got sent to respiratory as well, and they done lung tests and found my lung capacity was not good either. I also suffer from sleep apnea, so I was put on a CPAP machine. My wife at the time and I were told that any day I woke up in 22 was a blessing. They did not expect me to live through 2022. I was that unhealthy. That added a lot of stress, because here I am, I'm married, I had 2 beautiful stepchildren. I wanted to get myself better. I missed being able to go out and do outdoor activities, and it got worse and worse and worse, where I couldn't even walk without assistance. I couldn't shower myself. I couldn't dry myself. There was times I couldn't even wipe my own bum going to the toilet. I eventually got onto a disability pension here in Australia, and I also got approved through a national disability scheme to get the assistance of help in shower, medical equipment and so forth. Over the last 3 years, because of the excess stress and depression, I went and saw a clinical psychologist. And I started looking into my life from when I was born all the way through. And I've had a lot of hard times and a lot of difficult times, which is all in my book. I was informed that I had a disorder called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I'd heard of PTSD. I never knew such a thing about complex PTSD. And it turns out that I had so many bad events in my life that my brain was locked up on all these triggers, playbacks, flashbacks, nightmares, the list goes on, and it was unhealthy. And I didn't know how to beat it. I honestly didn't. I wanted to give up. Unfortunately for me, last year, in September last year, the combination of my health, the combination of my mental state, I'd upset my wife one too many times, and I moved out to work on me, and with the hopes that one day we'd get back together, and unfortunately that hasn't worked out. The strange thing was, within 2 weeks of being out on my own, in my own environment, I started to notice some changes within myself. My mental health was calmer. My attitude was changing. And then I started to notice physical differences in my body. I started to notice that I was being able to walk a little bit further and do things I hadn't been able to do for years, like go into Woolworths supermarket here in Australia, and I was never able to fully walk around in there. I'd have to keep sitting on my walker. And within a couple of weeks, I was able to go in, buy groceries, walk the whole store with the aid of my walker. And I continued to get stronger. And we're now in March 2025. Back in around August 24, I was weighed up, assessed for a powered wheelchair because my future looked like that my lower legs may be cut off because of the sickness, and also my lack of ability to walk without going out of breath and being sore and fatigued. Well, today's beginning of March. I had to reach 160 kilos to be able to meet the manufacturer's speculation to use the facilities on the powered wheelchair, which I met in around October, November last year. So when you think from 205 kilos to 159 kilos, hey, that's a good job, right? And it is. I started getting this newfound strength and belief in myself. And over the last couple of months, I've continued to push that. I've also changed the way I eat. It's no particular diet. It's just something that I've learnt from a little bit of research. And I can basically eat whatever I want to eat, but it's the size of it. And I don't eat 6 or 7 times a day or even 3 times a day. I eat once, maybe twice. Well, a few days ago I got weighed by my doctor because they've noticed I've made huge changes. And I weighed in at 141 kilos. My lungs have got more capacity. I'm breathing. I'd also had another heart ultrasound in October 24. I got the results for that to tell me that my heart was back to normal function and there was no sign of any issues. I've noticed my legs are getting stronger. I've noticed the colouring in my legs has deteriorated a little bit. I'm having a lot of improvements. In the beginning of this video, I spoke to you about stress and this natural drug called cortisol that our body produces. Well, doing some research into that, I noticed that cortisol can put your sugar levels up. And I'd had a spinal tap in around 2019, 2020, somewhere around that period, which is one sure sign to tell whether you've got diabetes because my sugar tests were always coming back high. Eventually, even though they picked up no diabetes in my spinal tap, which is the most accurate way to pick up diabetes, by the way, my blood tests showed different, fasting blood tests. So I was labelled as a type 2 diabetic and put on medication to assist with that. Well, in the research, it now explains to me that the cortisol that my body would have been releasing from the stress and the illnesses that I had was actually the cause of what got me diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Now that I'm not stressed, and look, my life is not simple. I'm going through a lot of issues currently. Financially, I'm having a lot of difficulties because cars, but that's another video. But since that's all dropped, I've just had a new round of bloods done, so I'm waiting for the results on that. But I want to get off my medication. I'm feeling great. I've got that much energy again that I'm basically gone back to being nearly an insomniac like I was when I was younger. I'm only getting a few hours sleep to survive every day because my body wants to get up and do things. It's active. My brain is going the fastest it's ever gone in its life. And it's processing so many things. And it's triggered me to do some more books. It's also triggered me that I think I'm in a position where I can get back to working and not be relying on a pittance of a pension. I do appreciate the pension. I know there's a lot of countries that kind of service is not there. But I love working, and I want to make something of my life while I've got time left. And I want to set myself up. So if you find that you're getting a lot of medical issues, like I was, and you find that your life is going downhill and you feel that the doctors aren't quite getting you, it doesn't hurt to do your own research. The more you talk to people, the more you research symptoms, the more you'll find. Doctors can't be expected to remember every single thing. If you go and have a look at all the medical journals, there's no way they can remember everything. But they have the basics. Sometimes they need help. It's even the same with specialists. And I love to research and find out things for myself. And unfortunately, I had to go through a lot of unhealthy issues before I could actually meet a friend who knew something I didn't and put me on the right track. You're going to watch in these videos that I'm going to continue to make and hopefully get out weekly, and bear with me because at this stage I don't have editing software. Everything is going to be raw video posted, and I'm going to look into some better equipment. I'm going to look into some decent software and other services that I've seen on other YouTube services that help you fix your videos up. But the one thing about me is I like to just be raw. I don't want people to think it's fake. I don't want people to think I'm trying to sell them something. I just want to share my experience. And if it helps one person in this world, then that will make me happy. Because a lot of us sit there and struggle every day with illnesses, mental health, economy, lifestyle. We need to support one another a bit more. This world's got a little bit too independent. It's also got a little bit too nasty. And I think it's time that we bring back some comradeship and we start asking our neighbours and our friends, are you actually okay? Don't make judgments. Don't try to put your advice into them. Share your experience, like I'm going to do. You can take what bits of that and apply it to your life if you feel that any of that might be of help to you. My books that I'm writing aren't there to tell you how to live. They're not going to be there to tell you how to survive. They're just simply how I've survived, the information I've learned, and how I've acted on it. So anyway, I'm going to leave it with that. It's been a pretty long video for a first one. I look forward to any comments and any suggestions and supports and things that I can look into as well. But I'm sure you'll follow my progress, hopefully, as time goes on, and you'll appreciate exactly what I've been through, what I'm going through, and my determination to get through it and back to who I used to be. I've also found a new me. I've never known this person in my whole 50 years of existence. And I've usually been pretty positive and pretty good in my life. But this new me in 2025, even though I'm having some trials and tribulations in the start of it, this new me is going to set me up for however many years I've got ahead of me. And I'm going to make the best of it. So Farewell. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll be back on here real soon to talk to you. Love you all.